Hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you all are having a great afternoon. This is our Bridging Creativity and Care, exploring art and art therapy and community art making for health and healing. Again, thank you all for joining us. I'm NeFesha Yisra'el, the Director of Programs here at California for the Arts, and we are excited to have you with us today. Today, we'll be exploring how creativity and care intersect in powerful ways, shining a light on the role of art making in health, healing, and community well-being. Before we begin, I'd like to thank the Music Man Foundation for their generous support and for their belief in the healing power of the arts and its impact on communities across this beautiful state. We can go ahead to the next slide. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Well, go ahead and welcome yourself similarly to how I just did. Share who you are, what organization you might be affiliated with, and also where you're located. Share your indigenous land where you reside. I currently am in Fresno, right outside of Fresno in the Central Valley on Yokuts land. And if you'd like to share a link to folks about the work that you do, please feel free to do that. Share it in the chat. This event is being recorded, and the recording and the slides and all of the resources will be shared with each of you. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. A few guidelines before we get started. Be sure as you're listening, as you're collecting questions in your mind or writing them down, to not put them in the chat box, but to put them in the Q&A feature. That
Oh,
helps us. What's that?
it's
Oh,
going to
sorry,
be a chat box, not
chat
Q&A.
box. I got it mixed up. Our webinars are the opposite. So since we have this set up like a meeting, you're going to put it in the chat box. My apologies. So during the Q&A, you put it in the chat box. You can be putting them in while the presentations are happening as well. We'll be collecting them, and be sure to address all of your questions during the Q&A portion. We always ask for everyone to avoid buzzwords and explain references and acronyms. That helps us to understand who you are. I know you all probably use a lot of acronyms as we do at CFTA, which is CA for the Arts. Sometimes we use that acronym. So just be sure to explain what you're referring to when you write out organizations or other affiliations. And then, of course, please be respectful to fellow attendees here today, honoring different perspectives in the chat. And we can go ahead to the next one. All right, a few things about Zoom. We've learned over the time that these are just important key points to point out and to support you all as you're listening. If you need closed captioning for accessibility, you can hit the little CC down at the bottom of your screen. You'll see the CC closed captioning symbol, and it says show captions with the little up arrow. When you click the up arrow, you can choose your caption language, and it gives you additional options there. Again, with the questions and any comments, you can put them in the chat. And I, again, correcting myself to make sure this is very clear. You're going to put your questions in the chat as well for the Q&A portion. All right, an additional Zoom tip here. This is our view options. And so if you'd like to see your screen in a different way than maybe it's set up right now, you can click the view at the top right-hand corner of your screen. You'll see that circled there in yellow. And when you click that button, then it'll be a drop down and you'll see side-by-side option. You can hover your cursor on the vertical gray line also. Once you select your option, if you click side-by-side option, you hover your cursor over, there's a divider and there's a little dash where it's circled on the right side of the screen here. And you'll see the little dash, and you can move that back and forth. You can drag it to make your screen bigger or smaller to see the slide deck more or see more of the speaker or the attendees or your speaker. All right, and a little bit about our organizations. CA for the Arts is started in CA Arts Advocates was started in 1996. It's a comprehensive lobbying organization. It's a 501c4. That's where we do our direct lobbying. We do a lot of our advocacy work. And then CA for the Arts allows us to also do our programming, our services, advocacy network. You may have joined us for some of our regional conversations, or maybe you've come to Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month events like our Summit or Arts Advocacy Day. We've been working as an organization as a 501c3 since 2007. Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month started in 2019 to give you a little history. But that's a little bit about our organizations, and please follow us online and to learn a little bit more. And you can go ahead to that next screen there. All right, and I believe this is my last one here, and I'm going to pass it to Jennifer Kuo. But just to share, I just did the welcome, and then we're going to go into the webinar series overview with Jennifer, and then we have our special speakers with Nadia and then Leva, and then we'll go into our Q&A and discussion, then with closing remarks. Thank you so much, and now I'll pass it to Jennifer Kuo, who is our Arts and Health Consultant at CA for the Arts.
Thank you, NeFesha, and welcome everyone. I'm Jen Kuo, based in Los Angeles on Togland, and welcome you all today. So this series was created by listening to and interacting with a variety of people who work at the intersection of arts and health, as well as from feedback from those curious to learn more in the communities. The 5 webinars in the series offer an introduction to the diverse and evolving field, highlighting how creative arts therapists, teaching artists, and facilitators contribute to individual and community well-being. Participants, all of you today, will gain a deeper understanding of the different settings, approaches, and goals that shape this work. From clinical environments where licensed creative arts therapists support individuals with specific diagnoses, to community-based programs led by artists and cultural practitioners that promote prevention, connection, and resilience. And at the same time, we recognize that concerns sometimes arise across professions regarding qualifications and roles in leading arts-based workshops for healing. And these conversations reflect important concerns, yet they also highlight the need for dialogue, clarity, and collaboration. And with mental health challenges and other related issues on the rise, the demand for this kind of work is greater than ever. We believe there is a space for a spectrum of contributions, from preventive and community-based approaches to clinically focused interventions, so that together we can support the full continuum of individual and community health needs. So today we have 2 speakers who will give their presentations, followed by some experiential activities. If you would like to participate, please have some of the following materials handy. It's also going to be dropped in the chat. So a few sheets of paper, some coloring utensils that you might have in your home or office, like pens, pencils, markers, a black pen, ideally gel, for one activity, but any pen will do as well. Okay, so just have that handy, accessible for later on. So now I would like to introduce you all to our first speaker for the day. And the speaker is the president of the American Art Therapy Association, Nadia Paredes. She's also a registered art therapist, licensed marital and family therapist, and intuition painting facilitator who founded her own creative studio, which is a bilingual resource for mental health prevention, unblocking creativity, and authentic self-expression. Again, I mentioned she's a current president of ADA, American Art Therapy Association, and co-chair of the International Art Therapy and Education Association. She's also an art therapy supervisor and adjunct professor at Loyola Marymount University, known as LMU, in California, as well as California Institute of Integral Studies, and at the Metafora Art Therapy School in Barcelona, Spain. So let's welcome Nadia.
All right. Thank you. I was like, thank you. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. Yes, a master of many trades here. I think being a creative, you can't help it, but to have like multiple jobs and roles. And also, I recently joined Project Hope, by the way. So I'm now also doing disaster work here in Los Angeles. So there's that added piece. But anyhow, I'm here to talk to you about what is art therapy, right? So if we can go to the next slide, please. So art therapy. Art therapy is my love. But it's not only that. It is also, according to the American Art Therapy Association, or, as we said, acronyms, ADA, So, art therapy is a mental health profession that enriches the lives of individuals, families, and communities through active art making. The creative process and applied psychological theory will kind of like underscore that within a psychotherapeutic relationship, right? So, today I hope I can give you kind of like a little bit of clear, like kind of like clearer boundaries of like what is art therapy and what isn't, but in general, when we think of art therapy, I want you to think of art therapy as this, again, a mental health profession, and it helps improve individuals' lives, right? We work on the cognitive and sensory motor functions of the human being. We also talk about self-awareness, self-esteem. We sometimes also help, cultivating emotional resilience and promoting insight, helping people have a glance into themselves, sometimes helping with improving how, they're working on their social skills, and sometimes even, work on resolving some conflicts that do happen when we are in social, in social relationships. And then there's, of course, we're very famous for trauma, and helping people process traumatic situations that they go through. And we also try at the same time, of course, to be mindful of ecological and societal changes. So we also do community work, and it is a little bit of that new job that I now have with Project Hope. So if we go to the next slide, please. Oh, there's more. And there you go. So what art therapy can look like, right? I know sometimes, clients come in and they have all these things happening inside, and just by being handed, pencil and paper, they can come back to themselves, right? Like they can get everything that's coming inside, kind of like what you have stored and what we all do, right? And when we're living, in a world that has a lot of problems and issues, of course, art therapy can sometimes help get it out of yourself so that you can put it outside and then see it through a different perspective. And usually, you will be guided again by an art therapist to help sometimes see your art with a different lens, or sometimes the art can be the way we converse and like kind of like what we have in common and what we have to share. Art therapists will not interpret your art. That is number one rule in art therapy. I do not know what your art means. I'm here to help you understand what your art means, and you can help me understand your art, but I'm not interpreting. I'm not telling you what this means. I may have questions about things that I see, but it will be a question, right? Because we want to be mindful that we understand that, like symbols aren't universal. There's things that are also culturally, significant. So we want to make sure, when we're an art therapist, that when we look at art, that we make sure that we're understanding it through the lens of the person who's presenting the art and not our own lens. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the intersection of art, and therapeutic practices, that happens. So what is the difference, between art therapy and an art class, right? So when we think about art therapy, we want to think of, again, the way we integrate the different methods, as I was saying, of the arts, but also the psychological theories. And we also, the thing that we do in art therapy, is something, we help people kind of like integrate, their mind, their body, and their spirit through some of our theories. One that is kind of like very popular amongst our therapists, the expressive therapies continuum, where we do talk about, kind of like how do we center our nervous systems, right? And so how do we use the creative? Because we create through the body, right? Like we engage in making with the body. And we also sometimes engage the emotions, right? The feelings that we have. And then there's also the thoughts and the symbols that we put in the art, right? And we all have different preferences. And some of us might incline towards kinesthetic, art making, and, maybe you like clay a lot. But then there's others who we will notice that are more inclined towards making collage and being symbolic. And so we understand people kind of like through that lens of how are you making art and connecting? Maybe you're just being very expressive in your art, or maybe you're using the art to kind of like soothe yourself, right? Just making the art is a soothing activity, and it is not for expression, it is just for you to calm down. So we kind of like have these different theories of psychological understanding that help us through that lens. So how is it different from an art class? Again, the creative process is healing on its own. Like we are therapists, we know we don't own that kind of like healing quality of the arts, of course. It's like, we know it's healing on its own. It's like that is, something that we do know. However, we do combine, that art language again with psychological theories. So we want, people to that we understand human development. And so we're very intentional about the way we use the art, right? It's not only about the art process, but it is kind of like how we bring it in for the client. What materials am I bringing in? Like I have a lot of planning before, right? Coming in with the art for the client. So that is a little bit different from an art class, but maybe, aesthetics, also matter in an art class. For us, they don't. For us, it's more about the expressive quality of the arts. Not that we don't care about aesthetics, sometimes that's very important too. But the truth is that majority of art therapists, we will be focusing, on what the art, kind of like what it felt to create and how you created and why you created. Um, and so who are art therapists? Like, how do you know, am I working with an art therapist? It's like, well, in order to call it art therapy, you have to hold a master's level degree or higher, right? I do want to name that sometimes there's certain organizations that say they're training you in art therapy. If it's an online training and it's a weekend, that is not art therapy, particularly in the United States. It's not how it's defined. In the United States, you require to hold a master's degree in order to call yourself an art therapist. And we have credentials for the type of work that we do. So you can either be an ATR, a registered art therapist, or a board certified art therapist. And this will also get you licensing in some states, which can also mean that you can reimburse for your mental health services. Um, and do people need to be talented or artistic to take part in art therapy? No, never, not at all. As I was saying, we're about just kind of like you using the creative process to heal yourself. And we are trained, to help you make feel, if you feel like you're like, I'm not good at it, any art therapist can help you find ways to connect with the art in a way that feels safe for you, in a way that feels meaningful to you. It's like we have our therapists who use art that is already made in museums, and we talk about a pre-made art piece. Like you don't even have to make the art. Sometimes the art has already been made for you. Sometimes we might use TV shows, movies, photography. You can take a photo with your phone, and that can also be part of your treatment. So talent isn't necessarily involved kind of like in this practice. And can we go to the next slide, please? So the problem is usually what gets in the way of people, again, as I was saying, sometimes talent can be something that people be like, I don't want to be an art, like I don't want to do art therapy because I'm scared, I'm not good at art. I'm telling you, every single time I tell somebody, hi, I'm an art therapist, everybody tells me, I don't paint, I don't make art, I'm not talented, I'm not creative. And I love getting that, that answer because usually that's what people like the type of people I work with, right, in community. So usually I love explaining these things that might be getting in our ways of having, people come and actually do art therapy. So one of the things is we don't differentiate between fine art and art that is fine for me, right? There's fine art. Yes, there's professional artists that dedicate their lives to art. They have trained, they work in this field for 8 hours a day. Like that's what they do. And this art belongs, in museums and galleries and all that good stuff. So that's that. But then there's also art that you can make at home that's not necessarily great, and you can just, make a mark on a piece of paper and maybe do a scribble, and paint for a little bit and you feel better. That's it. Doesn't need to go anywhere, doesn't need to follow any, aesthetic rules. It just is what it is. Um, and when we start to make art, in that way, when you start to just make art because it feels good, because it's a good thing, then you can start to see kind of like these automatic reactions versus your self-awareness, right? Like sometimes when you're making art, you can start gaining insight into who you are. Sometimes you might be, just, painting and you may get some ideas of like, oh, this is bad. Oh my God, I'm such a horrible art. Oh my God, that was such a poor choice. I don't like how this looks. Like all these thoughts that we have that are very critical about the art that we make. And sometimes it's important to then step outside in art therapy. We would help to be like, let's bring that self-awareness. What are those thoughts about? Why do you think that way? Like, let us think. Let us bring that process of you thinking, automatically like, oh, I'm not good at this, and be like, where did that come from? Right? Where did that kind of like where was that born? And the more we learn to just make art in this way that is just about getting self-awareness of like, wow, I'm being very negative with myself today. Okay, good. No, I don't want that. Hey, let me just make art. I'm just playing here. Let me just, play with my markers on this coloring page and that's it. Like, I don't want to get more out of this. That's already a win. Because when you make art, with a healing intention on a regular basis, you start to build new neural pathways for yourself. You start, your brain starts to change because you're learning to exist differently in the world, right? And the kind of like the art becomes that gym for your brain where you can test out new things, where you can be like, coloring outside the lines. And I know some people cringe when I say that, and I'm like, yeah, try coloring outside the lines. And someone are like, no. And some people might be like, oh my God, yes, I would love that, right? Just try painting outside the lines and see how that feels for you, right? And what insight can you get from that? Which is like, am I just a rule follower for the sake of following rules? Like, who said I can't follow these lines? It's just a paper and I can throw it away. Like, that can be just a test for yourself to be like, what am I thinking about art? Because some like things that we do have is an artistic scar. And so I don't know here who's familiar with artistic scars. Or if you've heard of that concept even. So if you have, you can just raise your hand if you have maybe. Do I have any raised hands? Or do I see like, nope, I don't know what an artistic scar is. I see some people going like, nope, never heard about this. Great. Oh, I have a hand. Yes. And I have some people that do know what the artistic scar is. Well, great. So for those of you who do know, love it. And for those of you who don't, let me tell you a little story. So Brene Brown, I don't know, my friend Brene here. It's like Dr. Brene Brown. You may have them. Thanks, Ted, for sharing that. That's true. Some of us may have them. I know I have them. I've worked on healing them. So Dr. Brene Brown did a study. And she realized that 85% of the population experienced something so traumatic and so hard that they changed the way that they are, right? That they were like, I'm not going to be this thing anymore in my life. I'm going to kind of like block that. The 85% of the population, turns out that 45% were art related, right? Like we all experience something so difficult and so hard that we stop making art. Yes, Katrina, I know that. Oh my God. It's like, yes, imagine a quarter of our population out there is suffering because they think they can't make art. Like somebody told us. And you could have gotten this scar for many reasons. Maybe, a teacher told you were not good at art, so you stopped making art. Kids at around age 9 start to compare themselves to others, and they might think like, I'm not talented and I'm not good, and that person is. Therefore, I'm not an artist or I shouldn't be making art. In some cases, I can draw to save my life. Thank you, right? And some of us maybe haven't found our art form, right? Like I can tell you, I grew up in a home where hyper-realistic art was highly valued, right? My parents had very interesting art pieces at home. And so I never felt like I could make art, right? And then I was told, but you're a singer. That's your art. So I sang in a choir for many years. And music was my thing because my cousins were talented in art because they could make hyper-realistic art. Guess what? Years later, I become an art therapist and I realized I'm an abstract painter. It's like I'm an abstract artist. So of course, nothing I could have done could have changed that fact. So think about it. No, think for yourself. Like maybe, you were told like, what, your sibling is better at art than you, or you were compared to someone else again, or we just experience different things in life that take us away from being an artist. But the truth is that we all can create. Oh, I can 100% relate with that. Thank you. Thank you for that love. Everyone is creative. Oh my God. You have other talents. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for, that love in the chat. Absolutely. So we've all experienced something like this. And so we stop making art. And that's horrible. But when you tell people, like, this is normal and we've all been through it, sometimes they're like, oh, then maybe I can try out again. And that's what we want. We want to let them know that too many thoughts is not the way we make art, that maybe we just need to allow ourselves to play. That maybe this is the space where we can just be like, hey, let's just be together. Let's play. Art, play as adults means, play means trying something without consequences. And that's art. I can make something on a piece of paper and that's it. It's a tryout. Doesn't change my life. People won't stop loving me because I made a horrible piece of art, right? It's like I can just make it on my own and then throw it away and nobody will know, and I still made art. So it's important, for us to allow that because yes, creative play, absolutely. Can I have the next slide, please? So in a yep, that's the one. So, art therapy is a very inclusive mental health approach. Why? Because we're giving people another way to communicate that is not only verbal. That's what happens with, our regular mental health professions. They're mostly verbal. But the arts, we all have then a different way to express ourselves, right? Like, we're, language may be, failing them. I know I had a client, great, super, no disabilities, gets a stroke, comes in for the following session, he can't speak. And guess what? We had the art. So I was able to show him like, collage images and be like, tell me how you're feeling right now with all that's going on. So he was able to show me imagery, right? And faces. And then I was able to kind of like, I would ask because he would understand it. I was like, are you feeling sad? No. Okay. Angry. So I would read feelings and then he would be like, mm. And so he'd be like, okay, yes. Right. So once he recuperated, he was able to recuperate his speech. And he told me that that was amazing, that he was able to continue services because he was like able to continue to express. The disability didn't stop him. So, during these times, again, our therapists can help clients at many different levels. Like, because again, we're talking about using your entire self to be part of the process and not only your cognitive abilities. So next slide, please. And there's a fun fact. I was like, so you've heard about art therapy and that's great. But did you know that art therapy was Barbie's first mental health profession? 275 careers throughout her life, and she had never, ever had a mental health career. And guess what? She chose art therapy to be her first one. So, yes, that art therapy came out last year, and you can still find it in stores. So, so we are very proud. Yes, I was actually part of the designing of this doll. I cannot tell you how much fun I had. It's like we were asked the Art Therapy Association was asked to be a consultant for the development of this doll. And it was lovely, right? To be able to kind of like share and be, and they were very thoughtful of like, what kind of art can art therapy be? And we are like, it can be anything. So we gave her, digital art. We gave her stickers. We gave her paint. We were like, it's about the art in general. It's not only one material. It's anything that can help, a child express themselves. And yes, we got a cat because, well, it is still Barbie, and they were like, it's still a child's toy, so she's getting a cat. But anyhow, next slide. Not all our therapists have cats, but we could. So where do we work? And we can go to the next slide. Thanks, Katrina. Um, so arts and health. So Dr. Jill Sonke built this beautiful model that finally helped me find words to explain to people how art therapists work in different places and spaces, right? So yes, art therapy, our most known jobs are part of the healthcare system, right? We work with very targeted interventions. Like we know what we're doing. We're coming in with a specific goal to help clients improve, right? Reduce depression, reduce anxiety, provide coping skills, help with conflict resolution, right? As I was sharing earlier, we have very specific things we're working on, and we're using the arts to help get to those goals, right? When we see ourselves in that space, again, creative arts therapies in general, then you can find us, in hospitals and psychiatric facilities, cancer treatment centers, or independent practices, right? Like we live in that space and we have very specific goals. However, in this model, I love that then they also included, well, there's artists that also work with very targeted interventions, right? And an example that I love is, when you bring in musicians for a concert at a hospital to help with pain management. Again, very targeted intervention, right? So the musicians were invited, yes, and they're playing music, yes, but it was very targeted. So that's when we can sometimes find artists or artists in residence, right? That are just there to help. So both of us lived in that space, right? Because sometimes I feel like there can be defensiveness of, no, this is the art therapy space and this is not. And you're like, well, we kind of do something similar, right? We just are there at different capacities. And so we slowly start to get to the public health system, right? Think of this as a spectrum. Like, don't think about it as either or. And, with that, I was like, with this thing I created, I don't like that the colors aren't blending because I feel like they should. Because sometimes we start to come into a different space more slowly. It's not just a jump. When we think of public health, I want you to think of prevention, right? Like art therapist, we work, and that's the kind of work that I do. I work in prevention in the preventive mental health field. So I provide a lot of trainings and education around, preventing trauma, stress management. So hoping that people don't need healthcare. Like that would be my job, right? Right now, working with disasters, it's like we're working with communities, helping prevent people from getting PTSD. Like we want them to, to process the trauma, to have spaces to talk about that. Um, and so it's health focused engagement, right? Like I'm using the arts, yes, but I'm helping people again with a specific goal. It's maybe not as targeted. Like I won't get like a post assessment to see, or I won't have like a continuous work with my clientele because again, I'm just doing trainings and maybe I do a follow up later, but I won't be having as targeted goals as a therapist would have in a healthcare setting, but I'm still in that setting. Um, and then there's of course arts on prescription, right? We have many countries, and I know US was getting there, got a hiccup, but we'll get there again, I promise. And so we have arts on prescription, hopefully people getting prescribed, to go to museums, to go to concerts, to just engage in art, which starts to get us to community work, right? So in community, maybe the engagement is not as targeted, right? Like maybe we have just again arts attendance, going to a concert. Like we all love going to a concert. We leave the concert, we feel great. It wasn't our intention to go there for mental health, probably, but we left with this power up. Having cultural practices, important for community, right? I think of like the Dia de Muertos festival that we have, here in Los Angeles and how important that is, for us to be in community. Creative hobbies, again, any of you who have, you knit just because it's fun, you do it because it helps you feel better, and then you have, of course, arts in schools. And that's very important, right? Because we know kids need arts education, and that's very important. And so we really want, to have kids that space. And so that's where actually then our therapist may come into community work because then we can be an ally, right? We do research. We have our, research journals about mental health and showing the benefits of art. So sometimes, that's how we can then cross into community and be an ally and be like, hey, schools, let me get you that thing, going forward. So then that's how you find us in other spaces. And can we go to the next slide, please? So I want us now to do a little art therapy exercise. And I really love doing this one. This is one of my favorites because it's simple to do. You will just need paper. Um, You can see, you can just have paper. And actually, you're going to divide that paper in four, right? So I want you to simply kind of like do a cross. Let me see. There you go. You're just going to have four squares in front of you. I'm going to actually stop having a background. Cool. This will be easier. All right. So you have four squares in front of you. I invite you to just have four squares, right? Once you have these four squares in front of you, I'm going to go super quickly, and this is on purpose, okay? So I want you to simply choose a color that represents happiness for you today. One color, how does happiness look like for you? Very quick, choose a color. Don't think about it too much. And I want you to invite that color on a happy dance. That first square is going to become a dance floor, and this color is going to go on a happy dance. So if I'm dancing, I think about it, and I'm probably twirling around. I'm like, yay, and jumping. Because, I'm thinking of myself happy and I'm like, I'm on a dance floor, I'm jumping around. So it's just, kind of like, how does happiness move for you, right? Is it a fast movement? Is it, is it maybe, strong? Is it like a yes feeling? Um, and so that's going to be happiness for you. But now again, this is going quick. Choose a color that represents anger for you right now. What color is anger for you today? And again, we're going to invite an angry dance this time. How does anger move for you? So for me, anger is also fast, but this one feels more determined, like very strong, right? Very strong, determined movement. Maybe I want to punch something. Oh, because I'm so angry, or maybe stabbing. It's like now that I'm doing this, I'm like, I'm just so angry, right? I'm canceling everything. And it's out. It's no longer inside. Now I want you to, again, very quickly, change. And now choose a color that represents sadness for you today. What color is sadness for you? And on the third square, we're going to take it on a sad move, sad dance. Probably sadness for me is slow. I feel like I'm kind of lazy. I'm even barely grabbing my marker, just kind of like floating around with no direction, you know, just slow and barely there. And again, quick change. Fourth square, we're going to choose a color that represents calm. How does calm move for you? And use that fourth square to express the calm. Calm to me means rhythmic movement, right? And so I usually love using my breath, and I start drawing my breath. And there you have it. Was everybody able to do this? Good. I see a lot of nodding. I see a lot of faces. Yes. Well, congratulations. You just became an artist. It's like, yes, because you were able to express an emotion, through color and movement. And that's what artists do. So whenever you think, I'm not good at this, I'm not an artist, well, think you are actually able to do this. And remember, you can use your emotions as inspiration to create. You can attach emotions to a color when you're coloring, for example, to have a space to hold your feelings. And I would do that between sessions. I always had some coloring pages and I would just choose colors, paint, a little bit of that color out to get that feeling and sensation, put it somewhere that where it could be held, and then I would go back to my clients, right? And then at the end of the day, I had a full art piece that I created. And then I started to notice how my art evolved, right? Because I started to see how every page became a different artistic piece, right? And I could see myself, oh, brighter colors this week, or oh, darker colors this week. And that spoke to my mood. So I could also kind of like help that to be a temperature for myself, kind of like to hold myself accountable for my own feelings and where I was. So, again, this is a little bit of me and art therapy and how you can use that.
Wow, thank you so much, Nadia. That was really a pleasant time. I've really enjoyed all of the content you gave us and the information, especially looking at Jill Sankey's arts and health continuum that really like we're doing here with our conversations, bridging creativity and care and looking at the many aspects. It was just really great. And I think I'm going to take my drawing and put it on my refrigerator for a little while.
Yay! I love that. And try different materials. If I may add, try this with different materials and you will see something like different for yourself. To be like, oh, maybe the markers, have a different sense than like oil pastels. So I highly recommend different materials too, or watercolors.
Watercolors would be fun too. I was surprised at what I ended up creating. It was very, very cool. And I'm sure you all probably were surprised as you were doing yours as well. So thank you, Nadia, for that. That was excellent.
Thanks.
All right. Our next speaker is Leva Zand, who is the founder and executive director of ARTogether. She is a dedicated advocate with 2 decades of experience in the field of refugees, human rights, and social justice. Her educational background includes a BA in sociology and an MA in feminist and religious studies. She studied law in her home country of Iran. Leva's nonprofit career started in 2005 in Sacramento, serving refugees from Southeast Asia. Later, she managed a team of reporters for the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, directed a publication for the Institute of War and Peace Reporting, and led a gender awareness program for the Eurasia Foundation. And before founding ARTogether in 2017, she directed an online school for the Nonviolence Initiative for Democracy. So let's all welcome Leva.
Thank you so much, NeFesha, and also Nadia for the presentation and the activity. It's hard to follow your energy. But here today I am. I want to speak about another magical aspect of the arts, community building and collective healing. Hello, everyone, and my name is Leva Zand. I'm the founder and director of ARTogether, and I came to the US 22 years ago. And as a first generation immigrant, I've spent most of these 2 decades basically trying to find my own place and community here. As the Fasherman mentioned, my academic and professional background is in women and gender studies, and before founding ARTogether, I worked with international NGOs supporting women around the world. Um, ARTogether was born right after the 2016 election during the Trump 1.0 era. And like many of us, I felt a deep anger and fear witnessing the rise of anti-immigrants and anti-refugee sentiment in our country. I was enraged for a couple of months, and then I decided to channel that force into something healing and more productive for myself first, and then for the community. And From my first-hand experience and also doing research, understanding services that are available for refugees and immigrants, I realized that as I my experience basically also the same. There isn't as much beyond the basic support for basic needs, basically logistical support, especially for refugees who are arriving in this country after the 90 days of original government support. There isn't as much available. And even if that during that 90 days, the support is mostly about logistical issues like social security, enrolling for schools and services, things like that. And often language is the biggest barrier. And it was obvious to me, again, from my family experience, from what I've been seeing around myself about the lack of something for community building and human connection, something that can pass the barrier of the language. And obviously, art became something here as the bridge, as art is the humans' oldest shared language, as we all know. ARTogether and us, we just start as a small, very small, and it was started with an art-based support group for Khmer elders in Auckland who survived genocide, Khmer Rouge genocide a few decades ago, and came to Auckland, and we started working with them, and then grow from that into from a very small group in 2017. We grew to a big organization, larger organization now that are serving thousands across the Bay Area. And our goal is offering a space for creativity, belonging, and healing. Next slide, please. Thank you. From the very beginning of our work, we focus on the process, not the product. As Nadia mentioned, this work is not about what are we going to create at the end to sell, basically, or show in the museum, but it's about using creativity to express, connect, and heal. And historically, art has been very exclusive, as we know. It's accessible mainly for those who have resources, money, time to spend on that. But if you look back at our prehistoric caves, art's always been practiced before it go to the museum, and our ancestors used to dance and sing around the fire, not opera halls. I feel like the modern life took that aspect of us, art from us, and art became, unfortunately, very exclusive. Although we believe that art must be inclusive, accessible, and part of the daily life. And accessibility for us, for ARTogether and our team, means more than just free classes. We know that it's just saying to people, oh, there's a show up at a class, which is free class. It's not, people are not showing up, especially the community that we are working with that are navigating survival. So we learn that we have to remove those barriers. That means that we have to provide childcare. We have to work on the transportation. We need to bring food and supplies and also meet folks where they are, not just, hey, there's a free art class to come in. And our participants, right now, we are working in different schools, in different clinics. We are working with mental health providers, and also we are working with other agencies who are providing different kind of services to the immigrants community. And our participants, we are located in Auckland, but we are active in many different counties in the Bay Area, and our participants are coming from all over. Basically, we have people from Afghanistan, Yemen, Ukraine, Latin America, Africa, and many other communities. And together, I think last year, our community, we speak more than 23 languages. And of course, art is our shared language in all of our programs. And our demographic of support is, like, changes sometimes because of different waves of resettlements that happen in this country. But again, our goal stay the same, which is create this belonging and healing, as I mentioned. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our programs in the next slide, please. We have four main program areas, and this category is also to understand the kind of programs we are offering, but at the core all of them is the connection and the healing aspect of art that we are focusing on. We have arts and wellness, which is mostly about a small group programs for newcomers, families, especially women and children, and we host both at our downtown Oakland Center and also participate in service agencies in other places. We also have Arts in a School program that we do provide art integration into science and some other subject that support the newcomers, the students who are learning English to do their projects, to learn about the subject through arts while they're still learning language. Our public art programs, in our public art programs, we create murals, festivals, and creative activities that bringing immigrants and local communities together to create and celebrate their stories. And we saw how it makes really difference for newcomers to see the faces of somebody from their own on the walls, or here being in a city that the festival is celebrating their music, their dance, and their traditions. It really creates a sense of belonging and welcomeness, especially in these days. And we also have a program we call Artist Growth, and we support immigrants and refugees, artists, the ones that are practicing professionally back their home, but they came here and now logging for new resources. And our programs are adaptable and community driven, and each of them designed with the conversation with the people it serves. And we believe that the form of it, and this healing is really happening different ways for different communities and with different backgrounds. And this is something that we are still learning, working with every new communities that we are with. And in the next few slides, I'm going to do a little bit of details of this program and give you some of the examples about that. Next slide, please. Our art-based support groups are where much of basically the heart of our program lives. And these are regular gatherings for newcomers and often with limited English, and they come together to create and share. Sometimes we co-facilitate with a social worker or art therapist. Other times our artists our art teachers who are trauma-informed and have been trained are working with the communities. But we don't call all of our classes art therapists unless we have an art therapist license to work with the community. And I want to tell a story here, and the reason I chose this image is because the memory of that day is really engraved in my brain. And we were working with a group of men who were the genocide survivor, basically, and the practice of that session was remembering some memories. And I never forget, these participants told me that it was a guy in his 70s, I would say, that through translator basically told me that it took him years to talk about the night that his house was set on fire. And through painting that days and through the flame, he felt that he finally made peace with that memory. It's just like, the image has always stay in my mind from our early days that this work that's been doing with the community. And these sessions are about art, but also about the dignity and bringing this safety and storytelling and honoring the folks that we have around, that their stories matters, and they can tell their stories in different ways. And basically say, this is the show that what this is I live through, but I'm still here and I belong here. Next slide, please. And our women art-based support groups offer a space of reflection and self-discovery. And we noticed, and to nobody's surprise, is that, like, newcomers, especially women's newcomers, when they come, they put everyone else behind, their children, their husband, extended family, and sometimes they forget that to create time for themselves. By providing childcare and by providing transportation, we are designing this women group as a safe space that centered them, basically, their needs, what they are going through, independent independent of, and their identity independent of their children and their husbands and their background or the history of their immigration here to this country. And one memory from this class that stayed with me is we had a workshop during the campfire in Northern California, and the woman and many of them there, I'm still getting choked up talking about that memory. The women that we were working on, they were mostly asylum seekers from South America, and they were talking about how they feel for the folks here in Northern California, because they know how it feels basically that they understand what it means to lose a home. And that basically, and I wish I could bring more of that stories to a larger public with the discussion that goes around immigration. I think that the shared language, that what is connected us with each other, which is joy, which is deep human experience, is still there. And I don't think there is any other way that become over racism and xenophobia that is in this country beside understanding our shared stories and shared human experiences, basically. And I want to say that here in this slide specifically about that, we are grateful for some of our partner organizations like Center for Empowering Refugees and Immigrants in Oakland, and also IVEEN, who are supporting us through these programs. Next slide, please. And in our youth program, we are using art to build confidence, empathy, and emotional literacy for students. We host free summer art classes that my colleague Polina, who is leading us in the activities, leading. And that's for newcomers students aged from 6 to 11, where they explore emotions, mindfulness, and community building through colors and imagination. And for teens and youth at high school age, we run longer programs from creative youth classes and leadership programs to shadow puppetry and animation workshops. And students write their personal story, often in their home languages or any languages that they're comfortable with, to tell stories, record their voices, design characters of the stories, and create animation and films. And one story about this class is that we had one 16 years old student who told us his project was about, quote, how it is okay to feel sad. And that kind of honesty and vulnerability for a boy at this age is very powerful. And when young folks can express the emotion through arts, they learn the resilience and understanding that vulnerability can also be powerful. I wish more of adults have that, be able to express their emotion that free and be okay to be sad and have other emotions. Our youth program is really something that's just, I'm looking for that every week to go and see the youth in actions. Next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit about like collective belonging and our public arts project, which is I want to call what I'm witnessing is that I want to call it like collective healing or collective wellness, which we are getting together and creating this larger scale project and mural, which is celebrating the images of us, of immigrants or newcomers in this country, and basically says that we are part of this place. We are here. We belong here. And we are currently, for those of you guys who are in Northern California, I invite you to come to West Berkeley and see our very large, we are currently completing a very large mural in West Berkeley honoring immigrants, South Asian woman activists across the generation, and this woman who fought to overcome many challenges to make the Bay Area their home, basically. And this mural site, sometimes we go there and in the morning, our artists finding like flowers and notes from the community that left it there as a point of like, thank you. And basically this, it shows how powerful this public visibility is. I think that was something that was missing in terms of like putting this face of large scales of these murals and celebrating these women with the long history of South Asians and South Asian women activists in Northern California. And every mural and festivals that we are organizing, including community participation from design workshops to public painting days. Basically, we are getting together with the neighborhoods, all the public projects that we did. We get together with the neighborhoods, we work with them on the design, something they want to see on the faces of their neighborhood, and the project come together, and even the painting and the design, not only the design, but they are also part of the painting and also the celebration of the works. Next slide, please. Um, am I going too fast? I think I still have some more time. And I have two more slides. And our Artist Growth Program emerged when we saw how few resources exist for the immigrants artists, especially those who've been practicing and established professionals before their displacements and coming to this country. Many arrived here with a strong artistic identity, but little access to the network or opportunities here. We offer free studio residencies, mentorship, and small grants, and we provide both spaces and support. And we have a gallery in downtown Oakland that often is a site for many of these immigrants' first solo or group show. And for many of them, our mini grant, which is really a small, but it helps them to put that grant in their resume to be able to reach out to larger grant makers. And those various small steps means a lot for the newcomers community. And beyond the career developments and artist community, we offer belonging, a place where artists can share not only their skills, but their stories and understanding the meaning of like making real network and meaningful relationship in the art community here in the Bay Area. Next slide, please. This year and the day after inauguration on January 19, I guess it was, we launched our Gather In program. It's unlike other programs, this program is open to everyone, refugee, non-refugee, immigrants, non-immigrants, locals, anyone. It's basically a monthly 4 hours open studio for anyone who wants to come sit with us, eat with us, drink with us, and just create together. This is idea is basically how making art, being in the same space can help with connecting. And each session we offer all the materials, all accessible materials, and people just come and make art. Sometimes we have some artists who led some of these programs, but mostly it is just a free come together, be quiet, talk, laugh, do whatever you want, but just be around people for 4 hours and use arts while your hands are busy making, you can talk with people. And we found it very powerful. And quickly, this program became one of our most meaningful programs that everybody is looking forward to it. I personally looking forward to it every month. That's the second Wednesday of the month if you guys are in Oakland or Bay Area. People stay beyond the schedule. We have hard time let them take them out. Hey, we want to close. I don't want to, but the staff needs to go home. And new friendship forms, and we are also playing like different folks music from around the world. And it's just like sometimes we do karaoke too. So just trying to make fun, having fun in a few hours a month, basically remind people that during the time that loneliness is basically a public health crisis, something as simple as making art, being in a room together, who knows, maybe be revolutionary in this age or this day or age. I think that was my last slide, and I want to thank you everyone for spending this time with me. And as ARTogether continues to grow, please, we would love to see you in our space. Please be in community with us. There are 2 QR codes. Sign up for our newsletter, and I would also, I'm sure Jennifer is also sending a follow-up email with our socials to follow. And again, more than anything, we would love to see you in person. So come in and say hi. And with that, I would like to pass the microphone to my colleague, Polina Marso, who will guide us through some fun art activities. Polina is an artist and art teacher, and she developed many of our arts and wellness programs and activities. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Thank you, Leva, for passing it on and introducing me. My name is Polina Marso, and as Leva mentioned, I'm also program manager for arts and wellness at ARTogether. We can start on the slides, if that is possible. But quickly, I just wanted to say, thank you so much for joining it. At ARTogether, we believe that art is a language beyond words. It invites reflection, movement, connection, and in many of our programs, or all of them really, art is not about the final product, it is about the process. So in the next 15 minutes, we'll draw together using a simple neurographic approach. And I'm curious, has anyone ever heard of neurographic art at all? Yes. Okay. Yes. Amazing. Amazing. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. But for the ones who don't know what it is, very simply, it is just drawing lines, then, converting them into shapes and coloring in or filling in shapes with pattern or text, really to engage the mind and body and art in a gentle way. And again, this is not about the final product, but it is an invitation. It is an invitation to move your pen, to witness your line, and to notice what shifts, to be in at the moment. All right, so I believe all of you have the materials from the previous art activity. All we really need is some paper. If you have a pen, that is amazing. A gel pen would be great because it glides easier through kind of through the page. And if you have some coloring materials, that would be amazing too. Maybe some colored pencils or markers. But if you don't worry, just a pen is fine. All right. So, before we begin, I would like to have a quick grounding moment. Let's all take a deep inhale and then a slow exhale. Now soften your shoulders. Maybe if you'd like a little movement, that's also okay. Relax your face. Okay. And now we're gonna give permission to ourselves and our hands to start the movement. We're gonna pick up a pen. Um, and maybe if you'd like, you can be a little bit more intentional. So, uh, maybe think of a word or a feeling you're carrying today. Maybe it's hope, maybe it's rest, maybe it's curiosity, or maybe you're tired. And that is also okay. That could also be carried through today. Okay, so as you can see in this slide, there is an example of a line drawing. We're gonna maybe spend about a minute or two creating a line with your pen. Um, just create a freeform curved line across your page. Let it wiggle, loop, turn. If you can, it would be great that you're creating an uninterrupted line without lifting the pen off your page, but you can also end it and then maybe add another line. Just kind of let it be fluid, spontaneous. It could be a quick motion or it could be slow and intentional. There's no wrong way of doing it. As you draw, fill your pen what it wants to do. If you want to draw, again, two or three intersecting lines, that is totally fine. This is your neural line, which is a visual map of your mind's motion, of your mind's current state. All right. When you're ready, pause. We spend maybe about a minute or two. And I will also share, let's see. It is very kind of, so these are some of the samples. Oh my God. There we go. So this is a little bit more finished. But right now, it's okay if your line looks like this. It could be less, it could be more. Okay, and we can go back to the slide and we can actually move to the next slide, please. So now you're gonna look at your lines and see where your lines cross and where you see some sharp edges or kind of like little triangles. And what you want to do is you want to soften the corners, you want to round the intersections, smooth every sharp edge. And this could take a long time. So maybe right now we could focus only on on a few of them. We're gonna spend maybe another, let's do 3 minutes, just rounding every corner. And as you're rounding the corners, you're gonna see new shapes appear. And these shapes are gonna become your cells of awareness. I'm going to be quiet for a little bit and give everyone some time to fill in and softening their edges. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm going to give everyone a 1 minute warning. So please spend the next minute of just finalizing little tweaks. All right, and I'm gonna do a little countdown so everybody can come back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so now we can go to the next slide. Now we have our line, we have our softened edges. And on the slide here, you can see a couple of samples of finished neurographic art. And as you can see, there is again no wrong way. There are some options with color and there are some options with pattern and text. So what we're gonna do for the next 5 minutes is you already have some shapes. And if you have coloring materials, please feel free to start lightly coloring them in or shading them. You can use one or two colors that maybe feel good to you in this moment, or maybe you want to use your favorite colors. And just let the drawing become an environment, your lines, your shapes, your color. If you don't have any colored materials, no worries at all. Or maybe you don't want to use color materials in the moment. Feel free to just include some pattern or maybe text. And even through text, maybe you want to continue setting an intention for today. Maybe you just want to fill in the shapes with writing. And again, it could be any language you're comfortable with. As you're working on filling in your shapes, I invite you to just notice how the space feels when you shift from motion, which were the lines, to stillness, which are shapes. And just maybe be mindful and reflect to what happens in your mind when you choose a color versus when you were just drawing the lines. All right, and I just also got a little time check that we're about to end. My timer was a little bit wrong. Sorry, everybody. But as you know, as you're kind of like moving through today's artwork, I wanted to invite you to reflect. And you're welcome to share in the chat if you'd like, or you can reflect quietly to yourself. Just take a moment with your drawing, right? Notice which shapes are largest, which lines feel bold, and just in general, how do you feel compared to when you started? And if you'd like, you can type in the chat one word maybe that you're describing how you feel and what you're taking away from this activity. And if people want to type it in the chat, we will create kind of a little word poem collectively. Oh, thank you. Relaxed, calmer, peaceful and calm, alive. Oh, love that. Alert. Amazing. Thank you all. And as my time with you is coming to an end, I just wanted to thank you all for showing up with your hands, with your minds, with your hearts. And as Nadia mentioned, you are all officially artists now. And now it's kind of like a double title in a way, right? Um, Yes, your drawing holds your present moment and your future moment. And you might revisit it later because we didn't really have a lot of time. But, let's carry this gentle shift into the rest of our time together. I appreciate you and our collective creativity. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Polina, for guiding us in such a wonderful and accessible activity. And again, these are all activities that are just like appetizers for the audience, and hopefully you will all explore more in depth on your own too. And thank you so much, Leva, for sharing the amazing work of ARTogether. It's really important work that you are providing in the space that you're providing for these refugee and immigrant populations. So, and I see that some folks are in the Bay Area, so I'm sure they'll be checking you all out soon. But thank you both. So now we're going to go ahead and shift into our discussion and Q&A. We'll have LT here on our team, put myself, NeFesha, Leva, Nadia, and Polina on screen. I feel like I need an A at the end of my name too as well today. And so we'll go ahead and let's go ahead and stop screen sharing here so we can get everybody up. Again, thank you for all the love in the chat. And so we're going to start off with questions for our panelists. The first one is, in addition to what you all shared today with us, how else can attendees learn more or experience how art making can support their health and well-being?
I think that's Nadia's question.
I was like, I would tell you, I was like, just go. I was like, go to those art galleries, visit those, those spaces. That would be my first thing. Just kind of like keep exploring, who you are artistically, take some art classes, just find an identity for yourself. But if you really, for example, for art therapy, there's different, I was thinking like of all these books that are, available on Amazon that have like art therapy exercises created by art therapists. You have, Erica Curtis. She is an amazing art therapist. She's wonderful. And she has many books out for parenting, like parenting through art. I'm like, yes, please. And she has also about like anger management. Again, she has just, again, multiple books out there, art therapy for kids, so that you can have that. There's also, I was thinking there's a deck of cards, and I'm just blanking out on the name of let me see if I have it. I have it on my Amazon list, so I can tell you in a second.
While we're waiting for that, would you like to chime in, Liv and Polina?
So the question was, but honestly, I'm with Nadia, just do it. And in terms of like Thanks God, there are more resources that are available these days about art and art therapy. And it can be, there are some starter kit basically. It's just, it doesn't need to be any expensive material. It's just like as Nadia and Polina both guided us in, just really simple activity could be. If you're in the Bay Area, come to our Wednesdays program so you can experience that in the community as well. But yeah, I mean, if I can think of any other resources, I would definitely send, but I don't think I have as much to add here. Paulina, do you have any other suggestion besides what Nadia mentioned?
Um, Not really. I would say that maybe sometimes community centers have accessible art classes that people could come to. And I am there with Nadia. Just, just do it. And art supplies, you don't need fancy art supplies, right? You just start with accessible things. And art should be more accessible, right? Just you need paper, you need some maybe pencils, or if you like colors, some simple acrylic paints, and just have fun with it, just experiment. And I think my main thing is don't be afraid and don't let anything kind of stop you. If you really want to do it, just try and don't be afraid of making mistakes.
Thank you all. And our next question before we take questions from the audience. So for our panelists, the next question is, what strategies can help strengthen collaboration among practitioners working across sectors in community settings to achieve shared goals?
I can start this one because the experience we've been working with mental health agencies and health agencies and community center and schools. I think the best is understanding and being in the space together and see who is doing what, and also what is our definition of health, what is well-being, what is art therapy, what is therapeutical art. I think these are all different. There are different definition to all of that, and also each of us are providing something different. Not all of us are doing the same thing, and it's best to have a map of what is available. We cannot, in our setting, our artists are not necessarily providing some the things that Nadia is providing, and our community and the art therapy could be more into like personal work versus the community well-being and community healing and connection. That's different aspect of that. So I think probably the best things first is understanding what these terms means, who is offering what, and what is the map of these resources that might be available in our region. For us and the work that we are doing, we are connected, but definitely the need is much, much higher. And I would say that the resources are also larger than what we can offer, we currently know and we can offer. And also thinking strategically, and I love the work that you guys at California for the Arts are doing in terms of advocacy to art as a prescription, basically, to understanding the importance of the work that Nadia and art therapists are doing, and the work of the arts in the community center and community healing. In our experience, the best results happen when these different groups got together and tried to map up the resources. Many of our programs currently are happening in the mental health service agencies or in the other places that other services, other mental health or health services are providing, and art is an add-on to that. Art cannot get the place of a therapist or psychiatrist, but it does have other power that's bringing to table. So for us to get a wholesome services, I think the best is these groups work together. I would love to hear Nadia's experience in this as well.
Yeah, I think, having these kinds of spaces where we can have conversations and show that we're all open to conversations. I know for a long time, I mean, I do need to accept that, in my field, it had been very protective. And a lot of experiences I've heard from people like, oh, I tried to work with an art therapist and they said no. And, it's like not collaboration in community work. And I think, that was something that was, very real. Culture has changed a lot. I feel like, again, modern generation of art therapists, we're all understanding that mental health requires all of us. I also think that, again, because of the polycrisis state that we are in, we cannot afford anymore to stay siloed and to be like, no, I do this and you do that. And I feel like, no, we need to collaborate. We need more. We need to connect. I feel like, again, having a dialogue, just having hey, I have this idea. maybe, as I was saying, sometimes our therapists, we work as allies when we're like, hey, you can use our research. I was like, please, like help, like allow us to help you, through the knowledge that we've acquired again academically and, and through research and all that good stuff. But in the end, it's about like, how can we use it to serve more people? Like, how can we use the kind of work that we do to help inform others, right? Like, we can co-create programming. Like, can I help you create a program that is, I don't know, trauma informed, right? Because maybe you're like, I'm very interested in doing this, but I don't know how to do it. Hey, how about, you can reach out. I feel like just having that sense of like we can talk and, and we have to work together. I don't think we can afford to just be doing our own thing, everybody, anymore. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a great point. I mean, like I said in the beginning of this webinar, that the need is great right now. So it's like there's a spectrum of expertise and skills and lived experiences. And it's also about all hands on deck now, right? Like we have to do this together to advance and move forward for health and healing. Paulina, you want to add anything else to that?
I just want to echo both what Leva and Nadia said, because I think really, just being introduced to art therapy a little bit more through Nadia through this webinar and like kind of working together in prep, I feel like what emerged for me is we're already doing similar things, right? And we're already trying to resolve similar issues. So it's all in co-creation and collaboration and just enriching each other, right? Because we might be able to provide resources for each other. Yeah.
100%.
Thank you. So now we're going to shift over. We have a few minutes left. We're going to shift over to some questions from our audience, which I will invite NeFesha to come on and help field some of those.
Oh, and by the way, shameless plug, I'm coming out with a book in January, and I put everything in the chat for people to, if you want to pre-order, it's already there.
Yes, thank you. And I'll be sure to capture these links and put it in the follow-up email too for everybody.
All right, let's get to some of the questions that are in the chat. Thank you, LT, for dropping those in our document. There were a few here. One was, can we receive a list of schools that train these master degrees in California? And I know that, Nadia, you answered that, I believe, in the chat, that there are two accredited programs for art therapy in California, and that includes Dominican University of California and Loyola Marymount University
In Los
in Los Angeles. Thank you. So, and I wanted to add to that question also, are there virtual hybrid programs across maybe other states, if you are familiar?
That's like the one that is like coming top of mind is Leslie. Leslie is in Massachusetts, and they have like a kind of like a dual, hybrid program. So you can just kind of like go for a summer, a couple of weeks, and then the rest is online. But now I'm
Leslie
trying
spelled Lesley University, right?
yeah,
At Leslie.
Okay.
Leslie. Yeah. Um, and I'm trying to think right now on top of mind that I have like that I know are virtual. So I was like, let me think. And
That's
I
fine.
can get back to you on that one.
Okay. Yeah. If you think of any, and we can also share in our
And I
follow.
know for expressive arts therapies, though, California Institute of Integral Studies is also in California. And they do all the arts, right? So it's not only art therapy specific, but all the arts. And they are also hybrid. So, you gather for a weekend only, and then the rest of the semester is online too.
Excellent. I see, Leva, you just put that in the chat too. So we're all on the
Yeah.
same page. Thank you. Um, the other question we have, we will share speaker contact information, or at least the websites and all of that on, in our follow-up email. One person asked a specific question, said, I am passionate about arts and well-being and are already working in the field and have a research background, and I'm debating whether or not I should do a master's in art therapy. Any thoughts or advice?
I would say like that requires definitely a conversation. I would be like, depends on your goals. Like, what do you want to achieve? Um, because kind of like if you want to do clinical work, then I would be like, yes, right? Like if you want to really work, with this, with populations and do that work directly, I would say absolutely, it's very important to get that master's degree so that you can do this again in a legal and ethical way for again it. And I will repeat, I do this inside the United States because I know other countries have other, other regulations and other rules. So it can be different in other countries. However, in the US, it is definitely more, more regulated than in other countries, just because of how, we've advanced the profession from like earlier on. So if, clinical work is part of the way, yes. If you already do research, you can also maybe try and collaborate with an art therapist and do research together. So you don't need to get a full degree, right? But you can still work with an art therapist and get, those art therapy research, you know, things that we do love and that we do think are very important. And again, if you want to talk more, please email me and, we can have a full-on discussion about, the different things that you may want to consider. Because I know it is a big investment, right? Like if it's, if you're getting like a graduate degree, like that is a lot of money. So, working on getting, lower cost programs here, I promise. That's what Ada is trying to do, but it is hard. So yes. So, so also you can reach out to me later. But yeah, for sure, I would be like, if you want to do clinical work, then yes. Yes, 100%.
I have one more question, and this is not in the chat, but it's something that came to my mind when Leva, you were speaking about childcare. And I know that a lot of communities that are that may not have the resources to pay for childcare need that to be able to experience art. So I'm wondering, if do you write that into your grant writing or your funding?
The funding that is shrinking and more shrinking more. Yes, as you can see, we do write it in our grants basically, and we push on that. And it has been actually a question of some grant makers why about that, but I think it's pretty obvious that if we want to make it accessible, it's not just that you don't have to pay a tuition. There are other ways needs to be there. I want to say we never had a pushback about that from grant makers. We had questions and answer, but we never been rejected or never been basically pushed back on that.
That's good. Thank you for that. Those are all the questions that were in the chat. And I know we're coming to time, so I would love to continue the conversation, but I know we're almost there. So Jennifer, I'm going to pass it back over to you. I think it's back over to you.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, NeFesha, and thank you all for your discussion. Again, we can have multiple, and again, this is just a beginning, right? Conversation, and looking forward to more interactions too in the future. And I invite the audience, if you have any other, thoughts or, shares you would like to share with us, please drop them in the chat. We'll take the last few moments to close us out. I'm going to go ahead and screen share again. All right, can you all see the screen? Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So again, today's slide deck and recording link will be sent in a follow-up email to all those that registered. We hope that you will join us for our last and final webinar of this series. It will be on drama therapy and community theater. And actually, Dr. Mimi Savage is an associate professor at CIIS, which is one of the programs we were talking about earlier, and she heads the Expressive Arts Therapies program. So I'm sure she will be able to answer some of your questions for you. You can also watch the recordings of our previous webinar in this series on our YouTube channel. And then again, they will all be up even after the last one for theater and drama too. I'm going to the next slide. And also remember that, we also have a survey link that we are dropping in the chat, which will also be in the email. It's really important to us, and we'd love to hear your feedback about this webinar series and what else you would like to see. We also have our Arts and Health Initiative website and webpage on the California for the Arts website. We have a free introduction guide to arts and health, which is a bird's eye view of everything going on in the space for you to kind of, whet your appetite, and then hopefully you will get inspired to learn more about this work. Now go ahead and pass it over to NeFesha.
All right. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Leva. Thank you to Nadia. Thank you to Polina for joining us and really making this an excellent experience and a learning session. Your feedback matters to us, so I want to make sure that you take a few moments to everyone that joined us today to fill out the survey, or anyone that's even watching. Please fill out the survey so that we can continue to make these webinars really a beneficial experience for the field. The link is in the chat. Shout out to LT. Thank you so much in the background. And we will also send it in a follow-up email along with the recording. So stay connected to follow us on social media and our subscribe to our newsletter, which will also be in our follow-up as well. So you'll get access to that. Thank you, Jen, for making this an amazing webinar series, and I look forward to the next one.
Thank you all. And thank you, Music Man Foundation, again, for your generous support of our initiative. Thank you, Nadia, Polina, Leva, for sharing your insights and experience with us. And to the audience, we hope to see you next time. And then let's continue to make California healthy and creative. Bye, everyone. Take care.